introduce myself and thank all of you for coming. My name is Brianna Sittler. I'm in charge of the Kaleidoscope events, of which Kat being here is one. She's our visiting artist or artist in residence. And I just want to introduce Catherine C. Bennett. She's an artist, designer, illustrator, and a writer. And she teaches something called the Saturday Morning Drawing Club, which is, she's done little mini classes for many of our students this week. It's been amazing. She's been an illustrator and artist for over 30 years. Her illustrations have appeared in many publications, including the Boston Globe, the New York Times, the Atlantic Monthly, the Wall Street Journal, the Baltimore Sun, the Time Magazine, Houghton Mifflin, Scholastic, Harcourt Brace, and many others. She's also made short animations for CBC Sesame Street, Nickelodeon TV, WHDH TV, WGBH TV, and various other nonprofits. Her work has been exhibited in shows in Boston, New York, Montreal, and Tokyo. Her current book is The Confident Creative, Drawing to Free the Mind, the Hand and Mind, published in 2010, and it won a gold medal in the 2011 Nautilus Book Awards. She's currently writing her newest book, Making Art a Practice, or Finessing It, which is due out in May of 2013. She has an amazing blog, if you have a chance to go on, catbennett.net. She's also written many articles that have appeared in the Huffington Post, the American Yoga Magazine, and Red, to name a few. This week, as I was saying, she's been our artist in residence. She's had open studio hours. I've had at least 7 classes visit, and she's done class visits talking about careers in art. She had hoped when she came here to be able to do some of her own artwork. She hasn't had a moment. So we've been really working her, and with that, I'd like to have Kat come up and have everybody welcome her.
Well, thank you so much. I have had the best week here. This is a great place. I want to first thank Brianna for inviting me here. It's been fantastic. I want to thank all the students who've come to my classes and really put themselves out. They've just been great. The kids here have so much openness and willingness to try things that they haven't tried before. I'd also like to thank Suzanne Strempik-Shea, who's, I believe, a writer in residence here in the spring and offers a writing class and is a wonderful writer and has been kind enough to recommend me to come here. And all the staff, everybody here, the IT people, they've just been so great and hospitable. I think this is a fantastic place, and I'm really been glad to be here. I'm going to give a little talk about my career, such as it sounds much more glamorous than it actually has been, but thank you for that. I have had all those clients, but it's when you put it together that it sounds so nice. But it's been fun, and I want to talk a little bit about my story, because I know there's some young people here, and sometimes one person's story can offer ideas for another story, even whether or not you're going to be an artist. Sorry for the spelling mistake. I'm not quite sure how that got in there, but I do feel I'm a bit of an accidental artist. I didn't grow up thinking I'm going to be an artist or I want to be an artist, but I did draw all the time and write stories. And when I got to high school, I thought I could go possibly to art school, but I thought then I would have to spend the rest of my life flogging myself as an artist. So I have spent the rest of my life flogging myself as an artist without the benefit of having gone to art school. I started my career at Woolworths at the age of 11. That's why it's such an accidental career. I was in, I used to get about 50 cents allowance when I was a kid and go up to Woolworths every couple of weeks to buy something. And one time I was there, I spotted the art department of Woolworths, and they had all these paintings of horses on black velvet and everything, and I'd never been to a museum or didn't know anything about art, and I thought these were absolutely fantastic, so I bought a pad of paper and started drawing them. And the manager came down the aisle and said, "What are you doing?" And I was sure we were going to get booted out. But he said, he asked if he could look at them and said, "Wow, these are pretty good. I'll pay you $5 to come next week and sit in front of the store and bring customers in by drawing out in front of the store." And I don't think he really thought it would bring customers in. I think he was really just, giving us a little pat in the back. But I never forgot that, and I thought, wow, I'm really good as an artist. And wow, it's really easy to make money as an artist. Little did I know. This is a picture of me as a kid. I think it's around this time, and I think it's really important for us as creative people to remember who we were as children. Obviously, I was a very serious child. And I've had to remember that as I've gone through my career because, you're competing with a lot of other people in this world, and some of them are very serious. And I had to always remember who I was. This is my major influence in my art career is comic books. I was a devoted reader of comic books in my childhood, which really dates me. I don't think they make them anymore. But I love the graphic style. I just get lost in the graphics of comic books. And I still love I love Japanese art, the very graphic kinds of art. I loved pop art. So this is a thread that goes through all of the work that I do. I decided against art school and went to McGill University where I studied English literature and art history. I love both words and images, and that seemed like a way of indulging both of my passions. And I thought when I got out, maybe I would try to be a filmmaker, that would be a way of combining both of those things. After I got out, I went to London and worked in a pub for a while, and I made these watercolors of people that I'd seen in the pub. And they're not very sophisticated, but at the same time, they're not terribly realistic or realistic at all. And this is what I took with me. I hadn't had any art instruction at all in my entire life since 9 years old, except for one class in which I did this little drawing. And I decided I wanted to work more than anything else at the National Film Board of Canada in the animation department, to combine my love of images and words. And these are the pieces that I took up there, not really realizing how naive I was. And so the way I got the job wasn't really from the work, but because I phoned him every week for 4 months until finally he said, "Okay, come on in." This is Norman McLaren, a great film innovator who I was very privileged to work in the same building with, and who really inspired me with his love of innovation. Oops, I've just lost the... So I got to, do a lot of script writing. These are some illustrations from my early efforts at script writing there. And I stayed at the Film Board for 5 years and eventually found that animation was, in those days, all hand-drawn, very labor-intensive, and a little bit too slow for my personality. So I decided to be a freelance illustrator, and I did some freelance short films, animations for many years afterwards for Sesame Street and so forth. So I left to become a freelance illustrator. I eventually, this is my very first illustration. Again, you can see I wasn't very accomplished in my drawing or whatever, but on the other hand, I think they'd never had anyone show up at the office looking for work as an illustrator who was so unaccomplished. So they were very kind to give me this illustration work. But I got $500 for this, which way back in the 1970s seemed like a fortune. I thought I'd made it, you know, and when I hadn't seen this for many years, it still reflects my feelings about life, that people wear a lot of over-decorated bathing suits and carve out their own turf. Meanwhile, the little kid is playing perilously close to the crocodile. I started getting also a lot of advertising work, which also paid $500 for each one of these drawings. So again, I was like, you know, cool. But, you know, I'm not saying that nowadays it would be quite so easy, but it was just a happy accident that the beginning of my work life was so pleasant. I moved to Boston, I got married and had a baby and came down here and began doing freelance illustrations for the Boston Globe. I did an awful lot of those. I worked for them for about 5 years doing that. Most of them were fairly, you know, silly. But I really enjoyed that and felt that in a way it was my mission to just do lighthearted work. Sometimes I got a little bit more serious. This was for a book review, the author V.S. Naipaul. And then in time, my style became a little more sophisticated and graphic, and I learned to draw a little bit better, and was lucky that I was paid to do that. And then, you know, the flow of work and life changes as the economies change and so on. I started doing a lot of work for children, illustrations that appeared in books, educational books mostly, and some of this led to doing animations for very short animations for Nickelodeon TV also. So again, my graphic style very much like the cartoons that I loved, the comics I loved as a child. Oh, okay, so that's a lot of, or a very truncated exhibition of my, a lot of my illustration work, which was both for editorial magazines and so forth, and children's books and animations. A friend of mine started putting on art shows, and I started participating in them maybe about 10 years ago, and started doing a lot of paintings that reflect, it was an opportunity to do my own thing and to do work that reflected, you know, what my experience told me about life and what I wanted to communicate in ways that I wasn't able to do as fully as an illustrator of other people's writing. So this is like, you know, don't get discouraged, you can always change your do. And this is, I've got a deep interest in, you know, life being peaceful and harmonious, and the world being peaceful and harmonious. And I kind of believe with Gandhi that we need to be the peace we want to see in the world. So I came up with a lot of these peace tea things where I had the idea we should all drink this in every day. And this one is about if you act immediately on inspiration, you're a genius. I believe that. And this one is, you know, think about the kind of shoes you want to wear, you know. If where do you want to go? I mean, you know, so wearing, this one is, yeah, it's just sort of saying that you can go anywhere you want to go. It's up to you, and just making a joke that it's the shoes you put on. Your decision. This one is the Mahatma Gandhi Hat Company. And this model, I invented a bunch of different models of Mahatma Gandhi hats so we could keep peace on the mind. And this one is See Beyond Disputes. I can't read it all. Irritations, anger, fear, and the inevitable differences and disappointments to the oneness of all. So, you know, pointing the way to the fact that we're all part of the same thing. And this hat, if you wear it, facilitates kindness to oneself and others. And then I did a lot of small paintings also. These were from a series called You're Not Alone, that were part of a bigger universe. There's always something floating around us. And these also. And I guess about 6 years ago, I started teaching art to adults, which I absolutely, totally love and adore. To see the things that people have done is just one of the deepest pleasures I think I can imagine, and I've decided in my next incarnation I'm going to be an art teacher. But I decided to write a book about my experiences teaching adults to draw, and this is the book. Oops, well, I missed the book, but anyway. I don't know how I get to that one. There. And so the basic premise of the book is everyone can draw, everyone is creative, and drawing can really liberate our spirits and our creative energies. This is one of my students' drawings. I absolutely love it. She is a great inspiration to me. She was so nervous when she came to the class that all of her drawings had wiggly lines. Her hand was shaking so badly, but she really inspired me. And she's gone on to have a one-woman show and all this stuff, just doing wonderful stuff. So I think it's not about getting it right, it's about being yourself. And I think mistakes are often wondrous. You know, people think that drawing needs to be, you know, about getting things absolutely right, but I think it is about just being yourself. These are all the images, or some of the images in my book. We can allow imagination to carry us away. We're all beautiful, and we can appreciate each other. This is a wonderful artist in Boston. And we all have something to say. We're going to do it in different ways, and all these artists are so different from each other. We've all been different places. Sometimes we're just recording the places that we've been and how we feel in those places. We'll all encounter obstacles on our creative paths, for sure, and it's a journey, good to remember. Yeah, here's another one we can choose to carry on. That's my yoga teacher. She did that painting. And I think everything beautiful we make matters. Even if we're just beginning, this is another one of my students, had never done anything. She was in her 60s, had never done anything before, but I love it. And I think we discover our own beauty making art and the best of ourselves. And then we can see where it goes. So that's my presentation. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah. I'll ask if there's any questions first, and if not, I thought we might spend a few minutes just drawing. The classes that I've done this week, we've taken crayons and scribbled on paper. I meant to get some music out, and I can run to the room and get the music. But if you start to scribble and just play around with your crayons, it's sometimes not easy to do that. Just feeling free to, some people are starting, that's great. To just make marks on paper. Really, drawing is just making marks on paper, and it isn't necessarily about drawing in a realistic way or even doing observational drawings. Yes, Suzanne?
I do have a question because
Yes.
my mother is artistic and that influenced my sister and me. Do you have any of that in your family? Or?
Well, my mom also liked to make paintings, And her father, who died before, when I was about 4 or something, he also liked to make paintings. So I think there is a sort of genetic component, I don't know, to my interest. But I didn't get a lot of exposure to, you know, art education or museums or anything as a child, but yeah. Yes?
I'm just curious about some of the medium that you used, like the Gandhi hat, those little posters, what are you working?
Those were, the Gandhi hat was done in oil paint, water-based oil paint. And the little posters, I think, might have been gouache. And then a lot of the illustration work was digital and done in Illustrator or in pastels. The softer stuff was done in pastels. And then the earlier work was done in watercolor. So it's sort of, I've done a lot of different media. Yeah.